Hello wildflowers, and welcome back to the Rambling Rose. Winter has arrived at Belladonna Cottage, and all that is left to admire in the garden are the hardy perennials, some plucky spring bulbs already pushing their little shoots to the surface, and a few audacious overachievers from the cut flower patch. Unbelievably, the solstice is just 2 weeks away, and that means I've finally had to accept that gardening must be done in more practical clothing than my usual attire. Boots, woolly jumpers, and dastardly denim jeans is what the season calls for. Ugh, is it just me, or are jeans the most uncomfortable things that a cottage fairy could ever imagine wearing? Perhaps my neurotype is showing, huh? But at least my socks can be covered in flowers when it's cold and gloomy outside. Nevertheless, there's gardening to do, and now that we have our boots on, let's go and do some tidying up. There's still much to be done in the garden at this time of year. It's much easier to get on top of the weeding and review what worked and what didn't over the past growing season. Mostly, my herb garden is still thriving, but crying out for a little fertilizer and TLC. But looking around my garden in winter, all I see is possibility. It's my favourite time to dream big for the coming season. There's like this sense of renewed interest in the garden after seeing just what can be achieved in a year of growing. Now, our cut flower patch has just one little zinnia remaining, and so we are already planning what we might do with this space next. I'm thinking of attempting a glorious herbaceous border that would rival any of the great British gardens. I've already started planning it out, writing lists in my garden journal, and looking back on what worked really well in my last garden. But in this episode, I'd love to get creative with you on another project, something I've been wanting to make for a very long time. A miniature cottage garden, fairy-sized, in a pot with dainty little herbs and winter blooming flowers that will feel whimsical and enchanted, even on the rainy days. So let's take a Sunday drive to the local garden centre and see what we can find. Okay, a garden centre mixed with an antique store? Now we're talking my language. And here, for my miniature cottage garden project, I tried to select herbs and flowers with small, dainty blooms and tiny foliage that would look great all year round. I'm sure you've seen in previous videos that fairies love thyme, ivy and violets, so these little ladies are a must-have. Whilst I was pottering around, I found this dusty old antique washstand, and I thought, hang on, that's going to make the perfect potting station. I know she's seen better days for sure, but it's all part of her charm. Trust me, she'll scrub up beautifully. The next amazing find out back of the antique store, nestled amongst the rusty tools and weathered glass bottles, was this cast iron cooking pot. The perfect pot for my miniature cottage garden. Don't you just love a good thrift find? I suppose I have a special place in my heart for purple, white and pink in the garden. Anything pastel and pretty that would be right at home in my childhood fantasy garden. At Pegasus Palace. I'll be sure to save these tags so I can write everything down in my garden journal. And whilst I may have gone a little overboard, it's better to have too many than not enough, right? After piling all those flowers into the car, it was time to make a quick stop by Dad's workshop to drill some drainage holes in the bottom of that heavy cast iron pot. It always puts a smile on Dad's face to pass on some handyman wisdom to his new son-in-law, and with a few chuckles and some Aztec ingenuity, Mr. Rose got the job done beautifully.
Another good job.
Back in the garden, we've popped our new potting station up against the garden shed, under the swaying leaves of the jacaranda tree. It's a little chilly in this shady spot, so I had to pop on a cozy woolly jumper, also covered in flowers, before getting started on our cottage garden in a pot. I set up a little side table so all the plants would be within easy reach, and with some curious king parrots watching on from above, set about placing some stones for drainage at the bottom of the pot, and then some good quality potting mix about halfway up. Without removing them from their pots just yet, I roughly positioned a few things here and there, planning it out based on their height and structure. The idea is to make it feel like a rambling cottage garden, of course, with the bigger shrubby plants at the back and smaller ground cover like ones spilling out over the front. So at the back, I decided on these soft pink marguerite daisies, with their dainty blooms creating a pretty backdrop to the scene. Honestly, they're going to need a much bigger pot very soon, but I just had to put them in. Never mind. Next, I wanted a trailing ivy to curl around the side of the pot, looking extra wistful and enchanting. Now, I know with this crowded planting style, I'm very quickly going to have to separate these into different pots and give them all a little more space to grow, but I wanted an instant effect for this today, so that's what we're going with. And yes, I know my impatience sometimes isn't practical, so feel free to give your own potted garden a lot more space than mine. The baby's breath was next, with its dainty white flowers and wispy leaves. I rather fancy it looks like a scattering of starlight strewn across the night sky. I'm a rather fanciful gardener now, aren't I? Can't help it. I was so pleased to find these cute cutleaf daisies to add in. A great little Australian native ground cover with sweet purple flowers that complement the colour palette so far. Now, don't forget to save the tags and mark everything down in your garden journal. You can keep track of what worked and what didn't, so you know what you'll try again. Violas, of course, being in the violet family, are not only gorgeous in my opinion with their unique vibrant colours, but are well known by all good green witches to attract fairies and be useful in luck spells and other potions. Lastly, let's tuck this thyme into place at the front of the arrangement, spilling out over with its incy-wincy leaves. Thyme is another enchanted herb I just love to have around my garden, as it is known to attract the magic of the Fae and is fragrant and yummy too. I can just imagine them sitting on these little leaves, having a tea party, dangling their legs over the edges, can't you? After popping a little extra potting mix around the edges, tucking them all into bed tightly, I couldn't forget to place a rose quartz in my garden so the flowers will grow with the frequency of love. And finally, the finishing touch, a cute little cottage witch ornament with her watering can and sun hat for a dash of whimsy, in case there wasn't enough. You know, it looks like she's holding one of the belladonna lilies that grow here in autumn, and I think she's rather special. Finding the perfect ornament for your miniature cottage garden is so fun. You could choose from birds, bunnies, little houses, chickens. The only limit is your imagination, which, if you love my channel, is probably pretty wild. I'd love to know what you choose if you make one for yourself. Tell me all about it in the comments below. As I watered everything in, of course, a rainbow appeared in the mist, just to let me know that the garden fairies did indeed approve. One final touch to my new potting station, that charming antique mirror you might remember from my first garden, seems so long ago. It looks nice for now, but just wait till you see what else we have planned for the garden this winter. As I'm putting the finishing touches on my latest journal entry, I'm feeling so excited for the coming spring. Mr. Rose and I made so much progress in the first year, transforming a rather boring suburban lawn into a flower-filled paradise. But I know that with every passing turn of the wheel, the garden grows more wild and wonderful, taking on a special kind of charm. Where the plants are tended with care, the birds, butterflies and bees make a home, and the whole garden sings with life and love. I so hope you enjoyed this episode, sweet friends, and if you did, please don't forget to like and subscribe, or perhaps consider supporting me on Patreon to help keep this channel alive. It sure was a pleasure to invite you into my cottage garden on this wintry weekend and get our hands in the soil together. I really hope you will be inspired to make one of these miniature gardens too. It's the perfect way to have a whimsical cottage garden vibe, even if you only have a tiny space to work with. If you'd like to start a garden journal of your own, you know we've been busy in the bookbindery at Belladonna Cottage, hand making them with love right here in Australia, in a range of pretty cottagecore fabrics I know you'll love. And you'll find plenty of journaling inspiration on this channel, as I'm always scribbling away in mine. I have 4 on the go right now. You'll find the journals in my online store, along with art prints, oracle cards, colouring books and more. I guess you could say that the garden is my greatest inspiration, and so making it magical is somewhat of an artistic necessity. In a way, it's a living artwork itself. As I dig up the lawn and create new flower beds, I'm making a canvas of sorts, one to decorate with nature's glorious colours. Until next time, beautiful wildflowers, may you be equally enchanted by the natural world. May flowers bloom in your life and creativity abound. Merry meet and merry meet again, dear friends, and a blessed turn of the wheel to all.